Good afternoon, everyone. I have to put my reading glasses on. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. I've started this eulogy many times in my head and in many different ways. It's hard to sum up a mother, and I started thinking about how many words I would need. And you realize there are not enough words, and even if you had them, they wouldn't really do the job. And then I realized that how many words do you really need? Everybody has had a mother, or has a mother, and we know what that bond means. And everybody would understand. So I'll say that I miss my mother, and mostly her voice. I've lived away from her most of my life in California, and so our relationship grew over phone conversations about books, about articles that she had read, movies that she had seen, TV shows, the news, politics, vacations that she had went on, work. And my mother's voice had a particular rhythm for me, a particular melody. And like all songs, brought comfort and soothing and joy and a familiarity that you go back to over and over. And the great songs bring truths and values that we pass on to others. They stay with us in our minds and in our hearts. Two of my students this year lost a father. And they're both seniors. And they're on this cusp of life going into their adulthood and all the joys and all the worry about going into college. And when I was their age, I was not entirely available to my parents for no other reason than I was 17, 18, and just it was easier to be with my friends. And I think about those two seniors and I think how lucky I was. I'm very grateful that my mother had a chance to see me graduate from college, become a teacher, become a husband, and become a father. I'm very fortunate to have had 50 years with her, that she could see me grow up and to become a man. And I'm very glad that I had that time to build a friendship with her. She was not only my mother, but we shared a lot of ideas through those books that she wanted to talk about. And I think I'm most grateful that she fought as hard as she did after she had cancer. And it was a fight we knew that she was going to lose. But it gave us all time to say our goodbyes. I had the opportunity to get vaccinated and be able to fly home and to see her, and a chance to look into those blue eyes while she told me that she could love me from anywhere. It was her last and best gift to me. I will always keep two images of my mother in my mind until I die. One is her sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and talking and listening. She loves stories, but particularly stories of everyday people who quietly and heroically struggle through life without losing their kindness, their generosity, or their sense of humor. People like you. Her blue eyes twinkling, her smile, her head tilting back when she laughed, and if she laughed really hard, she bent forward and hit her fist on the table. The other image is her sitting on the front porch in summer, fully engrossed in a book, just lost in another world, so much so that if you walked up the porch steps or you came through the front door, she wouldn't even look up. She loved to read, and she loved anything that would make her think and see the world differently. And that was how I gained access to my mother, and how I have made my life discussing books and poetry with kids. I pass her love of learning and reading on to kids on the other side of the country. Last fall, my mother sent me a few poems and readings. She didn't say it then, but I knew what they were for. They were for all of you on the day we came together to remember her and honor her. 3 short poems and 1 passage. The first one is from Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on those things. The second is a passage from Leo Ralston. In some way, however, small and secret, each of us is a little mad. Everyone is lonely at bottom and cries to be understood, but we can never entirely understand anyone else. And each of us remains part stranger even to those who love us. It is the weak who are cruel. Gentleness can only be expected from the strong. Those who do not know fear are not really brave, for courage is the capacity to confront what can be imagined. You can understand people if you look at them, no matter how old or how impressive they are, as if they are children. For most of us, never really mature. We simply grow taller. Happiness comes only when we push our brains and hearts to the farthest reaches of which they are capable. The purpose of life is to matter, to count, to stand for something, to have it make some difference that you lived it all. I'm missing one. This is from Father Gregory, Wherever You Go. I want to say something to all of you who have become a part of the fabric of my life. The color and texture which you have brought into my being have become a song, and I want to sing it forever. There is an energy in us which makes things happen when the paths of other persons touch ours, and we have to be there and let it happen. When the time of our particular sunset comes, our thing, our accomplishment, won't really matter a great deal. But the clarity and care with which we have loved others will speak with vitality of the great gift of life we have been for each other. And that is all.
And I know Beulah from Commons. Started on 1984, January 4th, I believe. And we met at the picnic table of the camshaft line. And we connected immediately. We were kindred spirits. And I always don't want to make my back because I'm so I just want to give a little bit of background about her and I's relationship. I wrote a letter to Beulah shortly after she called me and told me her situation. When she called, I was devastated. And yet, in her same voice, never really wavering, she told me, Kathy, I've lived a good life. I've seen a lot. I have a wonderful family. I have wonderful friends. I've lived a good life. I should be so thankful to have that ability to deal with something so difficult as what she had in front of her. Here's the letter. This is really a version of a letter of tribute and appreciation to Beulah that I sent to her before she left this earth for a better place in heaven. Dear Beulah, it is hard for me to know where to begin to tell you of all the times you positively influenced my life, because because there were so many of those times. The first time we met was the day we were both hired at Cummins in 1984. I can picture us at the camshaft team's picnic table area. I remember our conversations at work, especially the ones about life, family, parenting, marriage, uncertainty, attitudes, especially work attitudes, and the desire to always be grateful that we had jobs at Cummins, vowing to keep each other positive and not negative when things became tough at work. I remember you telling me about how important your marriage was, and to never speak badly about your husband to others. I took that one to heart. I remember how important it was to you and Phil to take vacations, sometimes without your children, to just be together. You and Phil exemplify a true team and are an example of what a strong marriage is. I took those lessons seriously and applied them to my own marriage. I'm sorry. At work, you were my cheerleader when I didn't believe in myself. You believed in me and were the one that always told me, quote, "Cream rises to the top." You were the cream in my life. You made my days sweeter and gave me hope for my future. My husband is Mike, and he's my rock. We got married in 1987, and we were blessed with 4 children. You continue to encourage and compliment us through those exhausting and challenging days of child rearing. Thank you for putting up with me. The pages of life turned quickly, and some chapters ended. I left Cummins and began another adventure, raising my kids, substitute teaching, and doing some other part-time things. We didn't see each other very often. I looked forward to tax season when Mike and I would deliver our tax information. And while he went over it with Phil, you and I would sit at the kitchen table and have coffee and catch up on all the news of the past year. It was wonderful to feel our friendship pick up where it left off. I loved hearing about what each of your kids were doing in the lives they were creating. It was good for my soul. It was a time to let some of life's stresses fade away for the brief time we chatted and laughed and cried if I needed to. You are a one-of-a-kind person that loves without condition. I know that firsthand because you loved me even though we saw things differently on the political front. You never judged me nor held that against me. You saw the deeper value of a person and truly saw the content of their character. I truly admire and love that about you. Cancer doesn't define you and can't take away the value you are as a person, mother, wife, sister, and friend. I hate this chapter, and I know it's a difficult one. I get angry and sad, but then I listen to you on the phone, calmly telling me the situation, still seeing the glass half full, telling me all the good in your life, and still being that calm voice during the storms of life. I can only hope to have that calm spirit in the really difficult phase of life. I then went on to share this Bible verse with my beautiful friend and my mentor. It is something I believe is important for everyone to decide in their life. My prayer for everyone is that you have complete peace about your future, the peace that surpasses all understanding, like the Bible says in Philippians 4:7. I have that peace because I took to heart John 3:16, which says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him may not perish, but may have life everlasting." Oh, I think I blew the battery. I trust that Beulah believed that Jesus died on the cross for her, that he rose again so that she could have eternal life, and because of that, we'll see her again. God has a place prepared for all of us that believe and trust in him. In closing, I thanked Beulah for all that she gave me over the last 36 years. She was a gem that I was blessed to call my friend and mentor. Life is short. Live it like Beulah did. See the glass half full. Be grateful for all the goodness that God provides in your life. Family, friends, a place to call home. Her life was a life well lived, and I will forever be grateful for her being a part of mine.
And I first met Beulah when I was 12 or 13 years old. Our parents both belonged to a Catholic organization, and so once Beulah and Phil got to know my parents, they decided I'd make a good babysitter. So I started babysitting, and at that time Sally was 4 and Anne-Marie was 3, and not Anne-Marie, Mary Beth was 3, excuse me. And they lived in the upstairs apartment on Newland Avenue. So I babysat right along through high school. And then when I was a junior in high school, my parents moved to Buffalo, and Phil and Beulah were nice enough to let me stay with them so I could complete my junior year. And then I came back after the summer of my senior year and stayed with them. And I'm thinking back, it took a lot of guts to take in a 17-year-old. They probably didn't know what they were getting into, but I probably helped them a little bit dealing with their own kids when they got older, and maybe I made it easier for the kids when they got to be teenagers. So I've known Beulah for a long, long time, and she's always been there for me. She's always made it to every bridal shower, baby shower, wedding, graduation, whatever was going on. And of course, we went and did our taxes every year, so we would stop and see them for sure then. And Beulah would always have the coffee on before you even sat down. She was ready, willing, and able to talk. So we spent a lot of time talking, and like I say, she was there for me when I had cancer. She, was my support. And I remember when she called me and told me about her cancer, and she said she wanted her children to know personally first, and I was considered one of her children. So, trying to think of what else I wanted to say. She said the same thing to me. She'd led a great life, and she had a great family, and she had no regrets. And so she was ready. But I just feel bad that it all happened during COVID because we weren't able to see her in person. I would have given anything to see. I did get to see her once before she passed away, but I really felt bad that I couldn't be there for her. And then another thing she did for me, my mother had cancer, and she was in a nursing home here in town, and she kind of took a turn for the worse. But it was my daughter's 8th birthday, so we had a birthday party planned for her. And I had been to see my mother in the morning, but we didn't want to disrupt the party for my daughter, so Beulah went and sat with my mom that night and read to her. And then my mom passed away the next morning, so Beulah was the last person that was ever with her, so I always was grateful for that. So Beulah was always there. She was the best friend you could ever have.
Compared to what HR was going to be like. And so when I met Beulah, it was the same way, and we just connected immediately. If you know HR, we did a lot of personality tests. So we did one with the whole team, and guess what? Beulah and I came out the same. So our personalities were the same, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky to be like Beulah. But Beulah was just like Kathy. I echo everything Kathy said. She was just a beautiful person, a wonderful mentor. To the point where even the plant manager would call her in his office and ask her for advice. That's how great she was. Just, I think she missed her calling. Maybe she was a social worker, but she was great. And she would give you all kinds of good words of wisdom and encouragement. I love Beulah. I absolutely loved her. She was one of my best friends, and I'll remember her the rest of my life. And I have this little quote that I found that Eleanor Roosevelt wrote. It said, "Many people will walk in and out of your life, but only true friends leave footprints on your heart." And that is Beulah.
Thank you.
We were together all the time, all through the years. It was
Mom was born on May 31st, 1938 in WCA Hospital in Jamestown, the third child of 4 of Minnie and Warren Cowan. Mom survived all of her siblings. She lived a simple but a fulfilling life. I, like Robbie, need my glasses. Tough getting old. Her early years during the Great Depression were not easy for Mom, but I knew I was going to lose that. It's okay. As a principal, you adjust. For her early years during the Depression, they were not easy for Mom, but I believe they helped form who she was. When Mom was about 7 years old, Warren divorced Grandma, and all 4 children were placed in the Randolph Children's Home for about 2 years. Mom would beg Grandma to take them home, but Grandma couldn't take care of all of them during those tough times. While being in the home was sad, I believe this experience shaped Mom. She learned the importance of family, how to survive on her own, patience, doing without things, and keeping a positive attitude. After getting her children out of the home, Grandma fell in love with John Condon, and they bought the farm in Kennedy. This brought stability and love into Mom's world. At age 16, Mom was hired at Loblaws on Prendergast Avenue. Landing that job was the best thing that ever happened to Mom because she met a young produce manager named Phil. And a beautiful love story began that lasted 62 years. Life wasn't all roses, but they never complained and always provided for us. They always lived below their means and worked tirelessly. Dad had 5 jobs while we were growing up, and when he lost his job as the assistant manager after 29 years at Loblaws, when they left the area, Mom decided to join the workforce. She worked first at National Fuel Gas, then for Jamestown Metal Manufacturing for a few years, and then found the job that she absolutely loved at Cummins Engine. Both Mom and Dad have met many wonderful people throughout the years at Cummins and have remained close with many of them still today, as we can all attest to people here from Cummins. One benefit of all of their hard work was doing what they enjoyed most together, and that was travel. At the end of every tax season, they would go to the Dominican Republic to unwind from the stressful previous 4 months. Mom would bring 15 books with her to read and lay by the pool, and Dad would bring the golf clubs down to get ready, play golf, and then get ready for the upcoming season. They looked forward to this yearly trip. And then around January, Mom would start laying out their next trip somewhere around the world. Most of their trips were in Europe, but they did love Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, Morocco, Montreal, Quebec. They went on over 28 trips around the world. Mom has a lot of strengths, or had a lot of strengths, and I'll get to those in a moment, but one area that she wasn't so strong in was cooking. There was always plenty of food for us to eat, but let's be honest. Mom, I'm sorry, over there. But you were no Ina Gardner, no Giada, and no Julia Child. As you know, we just celebrated Thanksgiving, and it's always on a Thursday. And when did Mom start preparing to make the food for Thanksgiving? On a Sunday. Yeah. So she would begin by defrosting the turkey on Saturday, and then it was either kept on the front porch, Don, Joanne, I'm sorry about that, maybe next year you're going to go check it out, or in the back of Dad's car. On Monday, the stuffing would be made, and most likely Ann's rice pudding. Tuesday was reserved for making the pumpkin pie with a burned crust that was usually donated to the people of the mission on First Street on Saturday or Sunday. Wednesday, Mom did do a good job of recreating Grandma downstairs' fried eggplant and cauliflower. Where she stored that, God only knows. Thursday was reserved for microwaving the frozen bird's eye squash that came in that little carton. Opening the canned cranberry sauce that actually had the ribs on it, and warming up the jar of Heinz gravy. Thank goodness Adriana took over making the real gravy, cranberry sauce, and squash several years ago. So cooking wasn't her forte, but I wanted to touch upon a few of the characteristics that made Mom the person that we all loved. Kindness. One day when she was so sick, she opened her eyes and looked at Dad and I and said, "I don't think in 82 years anyone could ever say that I was mean or unkind to them." Even at work, I took pride in being kind to everyone and always tried to help them in any way. That same week, Adriana came downstairs before heading off to school and said goodbye to Mom. Mom looked at her in her weak voice, smiled, and said, "You look so pretty. Have a great day and make somebody happy today." Dedication. Dedication is a characteristic that doesn't need a lot of explaining when it comes to Mom. She was dedicated to Dad, her children, our family, her friends, and work. Next, Mom was determined, persistent, and relentless in everything she did. She would not stop thinking about something until either she or somebody completed that task. Right, Dad? Whether it was installing the gutter guards, or finding something that was lost, or painting the back steps, or sending all of her cast iron pans to Robbie in California, she wouldn't stop thinking about it until it was done. That's the truth. Even when she got her prognosis, she was off to the races. She cleaned the entire attic, planned her funeral, purchased a plot next to her mother in Cherry Creek Cemetery, and taught Sally and I her system of paying bills. And yes, you pay your bill the day that it comes in the mail, not when it's due, just so you know. One day after a rough morning, she woke up out of a deep sleep and said, "Philip, can you think of anything else that I need or forgot to do?" I reassured her that she had accomplished everything and more over the past 3 months. It was this relentlessness and persistence to get everything ready before she died, so nobody would have to do a thing when she was gone. Mom was amazing and always put others before herself. Toughness. This could have either been done subliminally or overtly, depending on who you were. For Dad, oh, it was overtly. As we all know, Dad and Richard were just a tiny bit sheltered growing up. Mom constantly pushed Dad to do new things and to expand his horizon, something Cora, Grandma, never did. An example of this was travel. When Cora was alive, every time they were leaving the country, she would say, "Why the hell do they have to go anywhere? Why don't they just sit home and mind their own goddamn business?" Mom was also tough on Dad to exercise, eat right, and watch his weight. Right, Dad? Right. Mom worked a lifetime to change Dad for the better. And I would say she was very successful. Strength. As for strength, I've never met a stronger woman. Watching her go through the dying process, I fed off of her strength, and her strength got me through that difficult time. When she awoke after her procedure at Roswell, she asked me what the doctor said. And she said, "I want to know everything. Don't leave anything out. The truth is always the best way to go, Philip." So I told her everything. And she looked at me the entire time. She never cried. She never said what bad luck I had or why me. Actually, she never used any words like that, ever. As I was crying on her lap, she said, "It's okay, Philip. I've had 82 wonderful years, and I shouldn't think that I was old anymore." I think my brother Robbie said it best last year. He said, "You go through your whole life learning things, but nobody ever teaches you how to die." Mom, through her lifetime, taught us so many things, and her last lesson was a gift on how to die with strength, dignity, and courage. Other characteristics that describe Mom were intelligence and wisdom. Mom was a very intelligent person, and I would attribute that a lot to her love and passion for reading. She was a voracious reader, and she loved to learn. Her brain was always turning, asking why, and trying to understand different perspectives. She never thought her way was the only way,
It was just one of the many ways to think, feel, or act. Her wisdom is something I miss greatly. If we were to ask her thoughts on a problem, issue, or an idea, she might agree or subtly suggest an alternative view or suggestion on how to look at the situation. Whatever she said, we knew it was good advice. Even if we didn't like the advice, we eventually would see that she was actually right. Anytime I would bring a girlfriend home, Mom would say, Mom would never have to say it then. No. I knew almost immediately what she was thinking. No, she's not for you. She would never say that to any of us, but we always knew. That was until she met Adriana. When I called them from Myrtle Beach saying that I had met this girl from Brazil and they needed to meet her, I heard both of them say on the other line, oh boy, here we go. However, after spending just 1 week in New York and meeting Mom bought her, Adriana, a pearl necklace. So now we tell the boys that when your mother gives your girlfriend a pearl necklace, that's the girl that you need to marry. Mom's wisdom is something we all miss. Finally, love. You knew Mom loved you by her warm smile, her strong hug, that light little kiss in her eyes that twinkled when she looked at you. She loved all 5 of her children the same, even though we all joked that we were her favorite. She adored her grandchildren and bragged about them every chance she got. Mom's love for Dad was always apparent as well. Even though she could be tough on him, she loved him dearly. Many times at her house, even towards the end of her journey, she would wake up, see Dad, and smile. In closing, I want to end this celebration of my mother, Beulah Jane Camerata, the way she ended a goodbye with Philip last October when we thought she was transitioning. Philip was getting ready to head back to Bonaventure and visibly upset because he thought that this was going to be the last time he was going to see her. He said, I love you, Grandma, and I'm going to miss you. And Mom said, come back and see me, Philip. And Philip looked a bit confused. She continued with a smile on her face. I'll be here for you, one way or another. So thank you all for coming here today to my mom's celebration. She loved all of you and all of us. And when you think of her, think of those happy eyes, her warm smile, her kindness, and know that she is with us all